like briefing out all the modules in the web development. So can I know like which group of students are here, like which year?
So mainly it is UG students, that is engineering students, and some faculty
Okay,
also joins. Faculty members from
okay,
engineering colleges and students from engineering colleges, various engineering colleges, they could join.
okay, ma'am. Thank you. So since we are all of a group of students, so let me start with basic modules explanation. So I'll come up with few questions, like basic questions. Like those who are interested can unmute and answer me. Like we'll take the flow based on your answers. So we all know the applications, any digital products, be it your mobile application or your web application or any application for your automobiles, we all would have seen the user interface module. So, so let us take this webinar block by block. Maybe seeing the diagram, we'll understand like where the data flows. So when it comes to full stack development, 5 years back or 6 years back, if you see any job description for any role in the software development field, you would have known like the basic, the famous programming languages, Java, or recently JavaScript, Python, or be it anything. If you see the job description of it, you would have seen like, for example, for entry-level developers, we would have seen developers required with 2 years experience in backend language. They would have given the denomination of it, say Java, Python, JavaScript. Or when it is a requirement for a UI developer, we will know like there are some UI frameworks, say now Angular, React.js, or in those days we'd have different UI frameworks. So those job descriptions will have certain denominations saying like 2 years or 3 years experienced in UI. But if you all notice now in the current trend, like even this has been started before 2 to 3 years, the current trend is beat any job description, even if it is a backend developer or a UI developer, the job description itself starts with at least minimum one framework in UI or minimum one backend framework or any DevOps related serverless one or cloud one. So the job description has been evolved over the years, and now the current trend is like full stack development is at its peak, which means any company or any organization who's in the recruitment phase, they want us or any developer to have multiple skills, which is one person should be able to work on any one or two backend or any one or two front end till CI, CD, and DevOps. So in this entire journey, the current requirement is the trend is that one person should be able to not there's a saying, right, jack of all trades, master of none. Like somewhat similar to that, the experience or the exposure required is a developer has to have a knowledge in all the fields, like all the domains of any digital product. So my question here would be, so we all know there is a phase called UI phase. So uh, one second. Are you able to see my screen, guys? Excuse me. Students, can anyone say like, can you see my screen?
Sir, your presentation is in the name of Selvam Raju or
It should be in my name. You should see my Chrome window.
it is not visible, sir. Someone is
Okay.
presenting.
Okay, so now I have grabbed the screen share. Can you see this draw.io?
Yeah, sir. Now it is visible.
Okay, thank you. So we all know there is a UI phase. So I've kept it here. And there's something called database. Okay, and for students, take this as a story, the life cycle or a flow of data. Okay, so I'm pasting the database here. Okay, so can anyone tell me what happens in any application? What happens when we enter our username or password? Say we'll take the example of Facebook. We are entering our username and password. Can anyone say like what happens after we enter the password? What happens? A simple one-liner will do for the next step.
It will get load and comes our name.
Yes, ma'am. Can you please be clear? Okay, so there's some disturbance. Okay, I'll tell you. So whenever the first step is whenever we enter a data, basically this is about like managing or manipulating the data. Say what happened before 10 to 15 years, we like our parents or our grandparents, they'll be having their bank account or the post office account. Even I have seen when you go to the post office, there will be an entrance. Okay, so like I'm going to explain how this has been digitized. Okay, so let us say, take an example of a post office. There will be a person in the counter, a clerk, where you will be giving them your post office account number or your passbook. So that there is a counter which says so and so person is a clerk, where you'll post your data to them. So what they'll do, they'll get your data, they'll go and find out there will be a different stack of files. All those are sorry guys, I'm disconnected. Let me present it back. I hope you all can see my screen. Okay, so here is a database layer. Let me know if you can hear me. Hello all. Sorry, I got disconnected. I'll present it back. Fine. I hope you all can see my screen now. So what I was telling in between is, so we all know there is some interaction between the, thank you. So we all know there is some interaction between our UI layer and the database layer. So every database will have a username and password, which is for the communication between the different modules within an application. So all the architects will design in such a way, like every different modules within an application will be authorized using your username and password. So when coming back to our example, so you're passing your data, which is your account number here. And we all know by some means, this UI and database will be connected and our data will be entered into the database. In terms of login, we'll get a response back, or in terms of depositing amount to your bank account or anything. So you will be doing like CRUD operations, they'll say, like create, read, update, and delete. So we'll be doing like some operations, just like the physical files, we will do some operations within the database. Okay, so now let me pose the next question. What if the UI layer and the database layer are directly coupled or directly connected? What will happen? So I'll give some time, like you all can answer. If not, I'll reveal the answer. What will happen if UI layer and the database layer are tightly coupled and directly interacted? Okay, so what will happen is, we all know we can use the inspect element option in the Google Chrome. So what it means is, like any website, the front end code is delivered to all your clients. So in a client server architecture, say we as a company or organization or individual developer developing an application, so that application has a backend or API layer. There is some backend business logics involved. So that is the server. What is meant by the client is the user facing or the UI layer of any application is the client, which means in our case, it can be a mobile app. It can be a mobile app or a website, or even an ATM machine is a UI layer of it, ATM, or any app. So imagine Google is releasing, or any application, even it can be your application. You are releasing your business logics or your client facing application to, say you have 100 users or 1,000 users. So all your logics between connecting the UI layer and the database layer, if it is residing in your UI layer of your application, what will happen is anybody in any part of the world who is having your UI layer can easily access the information of your database. So even in this application, you all can see there is inspect element, and whatever is rendered in the front end can be seen as a JS code or as an HTML code, or be it anything, you can see it in the front end. This is the same case for mobile application also. So your Android will have the APK and your iOS will have a IPA. Likewise, different platforms has different front-end application in a different like module of extensions. So this can be reverse engineered. So having, what I mean here is, any APK file can be reverse engineered or decompiled, and you can view the source code. What will happen now? You have your database and you are rendering all your applications to the clients. Say in Ishwari College, you are having any mobile application for attendance or like parents teachers interaction. If all the business logics are completely rendered in the UI section, what will happen is any decompiler or any simple reverse engineering process can fetch you the business logics, and anybody can post your attendance, raise it to 100%, or even you can tamper your internal marks or anything. So there is a need of a middleware here, which says, like, the idea clearly is like any UI application or any user facing application should never interact with the DB directly. So what happens? I will move my DB here. DB here. And what I'm doing is I will have any middleware. So say in this case, I'll make it as an API layer or a web service layer or anything. And this is going to interact with my database. So what I'm trying to achieve here is like to get you all an idea at the end of this session, what are all the different stacks available and what are all the stacks which we as a developer should concentrate. Maybe even in the full stack development, these are going to be the layers of it. Okay. So now my API layer will have the connection to the database. So here comes the username and password. So now anybody with your UI, with your website, it can be your HTML website, it can be your Angular website or any website. So they will call an API. So this API or a web service is going to reside in your server, and this is going to interact with your database. So this has many securities involved. So from the UI to the API, we have many security protocols. One such is like we introduce a JWT token. Okay, so there are some real-time examples of it. I hope many of you are from Tamil Nadu, so you all should be knowing some movies which I'm going to tell now. So there's one movie called Iron. You know, like one person, the ear of the person will have one half of the currency note, and the other party will have the other half of the currency note. They will have the coupons. I mean, they'll have some authorization code. They'll tag the coupon. So this party will have half of the coupon, and this party will have half the coupon. So only if they connect both the coupon and if the signing authority says this is a valid coupon, they'll have the business dealing of exchanging the pearls or whatever. Like basically the movie says they exchange the pearls. Similarly, there are so many protocols. One such is like introducing a JWT token, which says same like that movie concept where Surya has half of the coupon. So this is like too technical, but to give you a general idea of it, say API has half of the coupon and this has the half of the code. So only if these are validated, I mean, if you see the cursor of here, only if this line is validated, a secure connection is established and the API returns back to the UI layer. So there will be a security protocol. So by this way, what we are doing is from the UI, the user can only interact whatever he is authorized to, which means if the user has access to his bank account, he can view that. If not, he cannot view others' account. Same like ATM concept. You insert your debit card, you can see your account data, you can check your bank balance. Yes, any questions? Okay. So from the ATM, you can view your bank balance. You can debit amount from your account alone. So those business logics will be written in the API layer, and rights and permissions for each and every users will be residing in this API layer. So this means your data, whatever you are having access to, you can access that. Similarly, even in your college application, the faculties or staff members, they will be having their own logins where those login or the user IDs will map to the role called teachers or professors. So those users can actually enter your attendance or your internal marks. When you have the login ID, when you log into your same college portal, your user ID will be mapped as student. So what are all the roles and rights you have in this application will be based on the students. Like this, parents will have a different logins. So ideally, all this business logics will be applied in the API layer. This will take care of all the routing and database interactions. UI will be based on different types of users. So these are all the basic 3 stacks, but there is something more also. So what will happen? So where will this entire application reside? We need some server. Okay, so let me introduce a different layer here. Say this is cloud or in-house server. As we all know, any application, see even your simple HTML application, if you're running a project in your local host, maybe final year students who are doing your project, you will be running your application in your local host and show it to your internal or external for review. Likewise, so even our local laptop can act as a server. But in industry, in a large scale, there are only two types. Like one, you can host your application to your cloud, and the second one can be your in-house server. In-house server is nothing but you maintaining your own server in your organization or college or whatever. So all these applications, say UI or API or database, these has to be connected to something called deployed to something called a server, so that anybody in any demographics can access your application. So all these entire thing. Okay, so including our UI. This UI can be, as I said, it can be mobile app also. So what happens is, okay, so I've isolated this layer. So all this layer is going to be hosted in a cloud server. So now the famous cloud servers or cloud infrastructures are AWS or Microsoft Azure or GCP, which is Google Cloud Platforms. So these are all the major cloud hosting services. Okay, so I'll tell you one story which I came across regarding AWS. So my company, we are fully on AWS. So all our services are on AWS, and majority of the industry. So the major one is the AWS service. So this has many functionalities right from your game development. So initially when I started working with AWS, there were only like 4 to 5 services. Now this has been evolved. Many startups have merged, and this is like full infrastructure for any digital product development or deployment. So I'll give you one interesting note about how this AWS concept has come, or any cloud concept. So we all know, right, big billion sale or big Indian sale. So Flipkart and Amazon. So one day what happened is Amazon wanted to do a very big sale all over the world and to boost their revenue. What they did is they purchased many servers. They made their own data servers and the data stations. They have deployed all their services there. They wanted to have a seamless, scalable business on one particular day where the users are not getting disconnected, or like they should not face any trouble. Because we all know in the Flipkart Big Billion Day, by 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock, the entire server has crashed and nobody could order. The reason is, say 2,500 Ironbox, or they were selling it for 250. So we users, we wanted to grab that opportunity, and the entire population has tried hitting the server on one particular day, and the application could not withstand. What happened is it failed to fulfill the order. So Amazon guys, what they wanted to do is, like, they wanted to have a seamless delivery or a business for one day. So they purchased multiple servers. They were ready for the business. On one particular day, the business went to the peak, and they were all happy. The business went on well. From the second day, when there is no offer, say today June 1st there is offer, everybody, we all bought a product. From June 2nd there is no offer, so gradually the user rates will come down. What will happen is all the servers and the data stations which they bought is of no use. Say the entire application, the server can scale for 1 million user, but the next day only 10,000 users or like very minimal users are using it. The extra servers, the extra load which they invested is of waste. So like they won't have any return on investment, right? So they have a very big architecture for this backend. So what they did is, these guys, they wanted to sell this. They wanted to rent this, just like we rent a house, right? If we have one extra house, say we are staying in the ground floor, if we have one extra house in the first floor, what we will do, we will rent it out to some other third party, will get the amount. So what these guys did is, they rented their servers to the local startups in the Silicon Valley. So they said, you have a startup, I have an infrastructure, you come and host your servers into your application into my machines. I will provide you all the infrastructure for 99% uptime, and you don't worry about any of the managed service. I will take care. You host your application, you concentrate on the business. So slowly people started coming up to them, and slowly this has become a major business. And even I have read somewhere, like the next 10 years, most of the companies have a written agreement saying that AWS will be their business partner for their deployment. So my organization, we are the gold customers for AWS. So we are also working in majority of AWS, all the entire applications and instances. So let's come back to the topic. So which says like cloud. So we now know what is cloud. Like somebody is having an infrastructure, we are having an applications. We don't have enough money, say even the UPS cost. Say if I have a server in my home, if current goes on, my UPS can withstand for some limited number of hours. After that period, my application will be down, and all the users in this layer, UI layer, cannot open their page. What it will say, Google 404 not found. Like even the API will say 404. This one says web page not available, and the database will be there, but it is of no use. We will not have any connectivity. So we are going for, like most of us, we go for the cloud server. Some of the sensitive information, say banking, or even I have worked with one of the major toll plazas in India. So they are around 36 toll plazas all over the company. So what happens is certain sensitive informations or the revenue informations, what they do is they prefer in-house service with all their infrastructure. Yes, any questions? Okay. So if you are not talking, please go on mute. So we all know now there is cloud and in-house. So both are same. Like whatever we do in cloud, it will be in the in-house. There is a different team who are doing this. So end of the session, you will be knowing like what is actually a full stack developer does. Okay. So now we have covered this cloud part also. So this entire box, which has UI, API, database, or whatever, based on your business architecture, not only these three, there can be some event-driven architecture, which says a separate processor. So I'll give you another real-time example, Airtel. So we recharge for 30 days or 14 days. So we are like so many million people in India. We all recharge at a different time. Like I recharged today, June 1st. So some of you would have recharged it yesterday or different days of the month. A software application nobody can look manually go and verify like, okay, this person recharged today. So after 28th, I should go and switch off their connection. So there should be some process, like it should not be a user driven one. Nobody should sit inside the machine or like inside the ODC to check for like these users, they are expiring today. I will switch off their connection. I will cut their connection. No, it should be automated, right? In that case, this logic won't work. So nobody can actually sit and click on the UI and that goes to an API, that goes to your database, and then our connection will be cut. No. So automation should be fully automation, or some part of the application can be semi-automated. So in this case of recharge or your internet billing or even your electricity billing, be it whatever, this kind of large data, they will have some architecture called event-driven architecture, where they'll have like, you all would have worked on basic cron job, nothing but your alarm application. Every morning, wake me up at 6 o'clock. Likewise, I'll tell my server every morning or every night at 12 o'clock, you check for all the users in the entire of India or Tamil Nadu or Karnataka, be it any state. They will have a separate processor which runs once in a day or once in 2 days, like based on the configuration. That will go make changes in the DB, and that will change your roles and rights. It may be your internet connection or your gas connection, like whatever it is. So that is one case. So that can be another layer of the application. What I'm trying to tell here is application can have multiple phases based on anyone who is architecting it, based on the business logic. Say a hospital application is different from a school application. Ideally, the tech stacks can be same, but the working or the business logics varies. So this is a basic example of having a API or database or a cloud server. Now, what comes next in the automation is CI/CD. This is another important layer, CI/CD. So I do have an example for this continuous integration or continuous delivery or continuous deployment. So we all know there's someone called a tester. In any software development team, there will be a team called testing team, or a automation tester, can be a manual tester, or there will be anyone from the testing team, and there will be a development team, there will be a business analytics team. So different teams. Say now June 1st, I'm developing an application. So by end of June 30, I'm saying I'll finish up this application end to end. But in this 1 to 30, this 30 days, my testing team will be sitting idle. So what I'm saying is like certain examples of the CI/CD. So I will take time till June 1 to June 30. What will happen is in this time, I will be working on my development, but the testing team will be sitting idle. So every week or every certain like milestones, I'll have to do a deployment. Again, I cannot come and manually deploy or package things to the deployment service like cloud or anything. There should be some automated service where this has to go and deploy my application seamlessly so that the testing and the development goes hand in hand. Also, there is a mean of automation here. Nobody can actually spend time in deploying or doing any manual work in an application. So whatever I do here should be integrated in such a way that this layer of CI/CD will deploy it to my application. So this CI/CD layer will deploy my application to the cloud, which means, say, I'm having an application which is a student-based application. So every Friday on a weekend, I will be having a release. This release will be automated. So what I will do is I will configure my CI/CD pipeline saying that every Friday, so this highlighted box will pick the code or the configurations from these different layers. UI will have a different CI/CD pipeline. The API will have a different CI/CD pipeline. Like this, these pipelines will be processed by CI/CD and this will be deployed to the cloud. So any application, we don't manually do. So certain small companies still do manual deployments, but as the business grows, there will be a place where you should automate your integration, automate your deployment and delivery so that the versioning, so many backend logics involved here for the software administration also. So if this entire thing is automated, now comes the actual thing called the full stack. What a full stack developer does, what is the scope of a full stack developer. So initially in the start, which I told is, now even you can now after this seminar, you can go and check for any job description from any company. The open statement is they will require one single developer to have some knowledge about the UI, some knowledge about the API, or like different stacks. Minimum requirement is like 1 programming language or 2 programming language. So you can see any job description from most of the top Fortune companies. What they expect from us, like we engineers, is we should not be confined to one particular block in this case. So you know only HTML or AngularJS or React.js. The expectation is you should also know one stack in the API also. Or you're a Java developer or a Python developer or any server-side developer, you should have some knowledge about UI also. So let us now list what are all the famous stacks available in UI. Angular, which is now part of Google. So React.js. So you students will be knowing a lot about this. Like Facebook has this, they had their own programming language, React.js. Now they have made it as open source. So React is from Facebook, or Vue.js, emerging one. Like this, you have many things. So these are all like Angular, React, and Vue are now the current trend. Many applications in the industry, they are using Angular, React, or Vue. In terms of API, we all know the legacy system, Java. And then now, like the JS is blooming. Everything is JS. So in that case, Node.js for server-side programming, or can be Python API, or even C#. You know, Microsoft owns C#, and they do have a mobile platform, development platform, Xamarin. So we'll see that next. So next line I'll include as, for mobile development, you have Android. And then Android, you all know, iOS for iOS devices. Windows currently not in trend, but like this, they have many mobile OSs also. Database side, so I would say like data structures and algorithms we'll be reading in either in second sem. When I studied, it was in the third sem. Now I think the newer regulation has it in the second sem. So another piece of advice, or like highlighter from me to all the students is whatever we study in college in 4 years, each and every paper has some impact in your career. Even I have realized it even after joining college. So in this 5 years, each and every paper or each and every semester, whatever you learn has some impact in your day-to-day work, in your profession also, which means like every single paper is very, very important, right from your electronics paper, which CSE and IT students are doing, be it whatever, based on your client, based on your architecture, we still go back and refer to whatever we studied in college, right? So those are all like theoretical one. You'll be doing that exactly whatever you studied into your project in your company. One, like between your company work and between your academics, the middle layer is your project. So whatever you do in your project is like the same which you are doing in the real time, but with some minimum effort or minimum features. So when it comes to database here, there are two different types of, the major variation between both is, one is the structured database. As we all know, database will have many tables. And as a student, we all know like select star from this query, all the students will be knowing like select star from. Or whenever you log into your SQL server, Scott Tiger. I remember I did this during my college days. So we all know there is something called table, inside that primary key, foreign key, like database concepts. So whatever we know is during college days or during initial days, which is SQL, MySQL or Microsoft SQL, PostgreSQL, Redshift database. Like there are many, many in the industry. These are all the structured database. What is meant by structured? This will have a structured table. So maybe in the next sessions, I can show you live examples of how the database things work. But for understanding, the structured database will have tables, which is like tuples or rows, like our Excel sheet, like ID, name, username, password. So these are all structured database. But the other side of it is a non-structured database, which is like JSON based. So those can be MongoDB, which I like. So MongoDB, or can be any DBs, like which is JSON based. Even the Firebase has a DB. Google Firebase has their own DB, right? In-house DB. So that is also non-structured database. And there are some other examples, which even the AWS is DynamoDB or DocumentDB. So there are like many examples with different layers.
Sir,
Yes, ma'am.
sir, what is the use of data structures in development?
Okay, good. So data structures is the ABCD, I would say, for any programming language. So we all know, right? We started with int and then string, double, float, and then the data structures like LinkedIn, tree, binary tree. So all these data structures, I would say, as a building block for any software development. So as a developer, we should know how the data is getting stored, how the data is processed, or how the structured data works. So this we would have learned in the computer architecture also. There is one paper, I remember, computer architecture, where you will be seeing how one string or how one int, which is getting stored in your memory, using the how it is processed using the processor. So we should be knowing what is a stack or a queue, how it works internally. So over the period of time, if you have this understanding, you will not be using those data structures in your daily life. You will get used to it. So to answer your question, the importance of data structure is whatever you want to do in programming or technically, having a basic idea. I would not say like have the full idea, but having the basic idea of what is queue, circular queue, linked list, these things will help you to understand how the actual server side or the data things works. So this will actually give you a wider insight of how the data flows, like how the data is organized. So thanks for the question. So this is how the data structure works, right? Sometimes in the linked list, we see like address of one data, doubly linked list, address of one data is stored in the second list of it, or the stack or queue, like first in, first out, the processing. So it is all somewhere tightly coupled and related in your data processing also. So thanks for your question. I hope I answered you. Yeah.
Sir,
Yeah.
one more problem, sir. For backend programming language, PHP and MySQL is enough, sir. or to store database, and for backend program it is enough, sir?
Yes. So MySQL comes under this box, which is database. You can have PHP as a this layer. Okay, so coupling of this layer, UI and the API layer, yes. Like few years back, many of the applications, even you all should be seeing like Facebook as a extension of PHP in like few years back, like they rendered their own web pages, right? So PHP can be used, but whatever examples which I gave is like the current trend. PHP now not widely used in the any new applications developed. There are some legacy systems or like already established, well-established systems might be in the PHP. So the examples which I gave is like the current trends. But yes, PHP can be used. If you're well of PHP, if you want to do in PHP, yes, you can develop your API or the UI components and connect it to your MySQL. But the best practices is like isolate your DB, isolate your API, and isolate your UI. So like one of the best practices. So to even enhance on best practices, say you're working on a project, you're following some practices on your own. Now you're moved to a different project. Say you got promotion or you're moved to another project. When your junior or when your teammates coming into the same project, and they should not find it difficult, the understandability or readability of your code. So what we should do, we all should follow a general standard. Maybe these standards, say Google owns Angular, Facebook owns React. So when it comes to API, Java, Oracle, or Python, so these people, they will have their own set of standards. So we should use those standards so that anybody can read your code. Like in the business, say if I'm working on my project, I move to your project. So I should know what you're doing is right. And another one example is, say if UI layer is communicating with API and API is communicating with database. So in reality, so example, you take an example of the states in India. Say example of South Indian states, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, and Tamil Nadu. So take this as a live example. So me from Tamil Nadu, when I'm trying to talk to someone from Andhra Pradesh, I know Tamil and they know Telugu. So the medium between us should be some different common language so that whatever I speak should be listened and processed by the person or my friend in Andhra Pradesh. The same is between me and my Kerala friend also. So he can talk in Malayalam, I can talk in Tamil, but how will we communicate? So there should be some common mean, right? So this is also one of the plan in the API or UI. So they'll be communicating with the common languages, which can be JSON. So all the words which I am giving it here, you can take a screenshot or you can even come back and see the recording. Just have the keywords, browse on your own, and you'll find n number of data in Google. So one such thing which you all should know is JSON. JSON is like a common frame or a common paradigm which different layers in a software system interacts, or it can be some XML also. So JSON or XML, or it can be any means. So basically, now most of the applications, the communication between both the entities will be JSON. So UI will communicate to my API in the form of JSON, and the database drivers within my API and DB can communicate in the form of JSON. So all the different applications, say this works with a different stack, Angular, React, or Vue, or HTML. This works with a different stack, and this works with a different stack. So they all communicate in the same means. So even this comes under the data structures and how we plan our data to flow through different entities. Okay. So now again, coming back to this topic. So we have one structured database, and there are some of the non-structured database. All these have certain pros and cons. Some of them are free to use, open source. Some of them are paid. We'll have to pay them and use it. So all these as community editions, we can try this in our local also. So this has different pros and cons, which we are not going to discuss now, maybe in future. So this has various pros and cons. And based on the business logics or business scale, number of users, say school applications, who all will use, the target audience will be in the entire of India, only some percentage of teachers, students, and the parents. But in case of healthcare applications, we all will use. So even after we finish our college, we will be using healthcare applications. say WhatsApp or Facebook, open to all, open to general public. There's nobody called target users. In that case, the architects will plan in such a way that the database should scale for this many millions of users or this many millions of different clients. It can be, see, we can use multiple. I can have multiple WhatsApp in my mobile now with a different account. So one person having multiple accounts. So this comes under load balancing, so and so. Like these are like extended topics. So not to go away from our topic. So we have these different stacks. When it comes to CI/CD, I will type it here. Now the famous CI/CD one, which is blooming from the GitHub, is Travis, or from the Bitbucket, this one, Atlassian's company have their own CI/CD, which is called Bamboo, or free, completely free open source one. There is another one CI/CD pipeline, which is Jenkins, Jenkins, which is a simple jar which you can host it in your laptop itself. This what will do is, if I have different connectors, say Android, this will pull the code, build my Android application, and this will do the deployment. If I have a UI application, this will pull the code from my GitHub repository. So again, I should mention there are different things called different versions of the code repository, which can be GitHub or Bitbucket from Atlassian's, or GitLab, Bitbuckets, or GitLab, or many open source and commercial code repositories are there. Maybe we can cover it in the next coming sessions. But as of now, get to know what is a source code management, SCM. Okay, so when it comes to CI/CD, so Travis, Bamboo, Jenkins, Circle CI, there are many list of stacks which is available, where what this will do. So I'll tell you one example for Android. If I configure my CI/CD pipeline properly, then what this can do, leverage is, it can pull my code from my GitHub, Bitbucket, or GitLab. It will process it, it will build it as an APK, and this can deploy to any server or even Play Store. With the Play Store connectors, you can deploy your application to Play Store. Likewise for iOS or any application, you can do this automated jobs, automated configurable jobs can be leveraged by this CI/CD pipeline also. So when we look at this diagram, what we see is a different phase. So in reality, like we all, as a developer, say I work on the projects or like career for around 5 years. Maybe next year you guys can start working on it. So each of us will have different idea, right? So my ambition, like before, when I was in the college final year, I wanted to become a UI developer. Okay, someone said, like maybe my senior or someone said, UI requires less programming knowledge. So as a college student, my target was UI. So I was sticking on to UI. But only after joining the company and getting to know what exactly project is, I realized any part of this blocks requires a strong technical understanding, and be it UI or backend or middle or whatever it is, we have to code. There's nothing called drag and drop. Drag and drop can be done by the end user who is a non-engineer, who is not technically strong. But we engineers, we will work on how to implement this drag and drop. There is a difference. Say one example, I drag something from the box and place it here. For those who don't know technology, this is just drag and drop. But we are the engineers who are actually implementing this drag and drop, right? So we are actually coding for it. We are like working on the platforms. We are writing some code in the UI or the backend or some connectors, which moves this box or this circle from year to year. So a non-technical person can get use of it. They can consume our application. But we engineers, we technical persons, we are actually implementing it. So like we all can take like one pride ahead, like one step. Okay, we develop these applications. I can do this drag and drop. So all these requires your technical understanding. So career-wise, full stack is nothing but. Okay, so leave off this empty boxes. Full stack, like what is full stack? So now we'll start the topic. I mean, start now, not the actual start. Now I'll come back to the core of this webinar is what a full stack developer or what a full stack web developer does. Okay, so one person who's hired for a full stack developer will be having different so every company has a different microservices. One microservices can be login. One services, so the famous application which we all can like take for example is Instagram, Facebook, or Flipkart, Amazon, which we all mostly use, like, or some of us, some of the boys will be playing this PUBG game also. It is all comes under the technical standards only. So this has many phases: the UI layer, your voice getting transmitted, socket communication. So some port in your mobile system is open for your friend to communicate with that same port, and he is able to hear your voice while you're playing the game within the same application. So you're like shooting your opponents, the other guy who is listening to your voice is following your commands. When all these are bundled or coupled inside the same applications, so this has different layers, right? So you getting logged in into an application, and one part of the application will log out. One part of the application will actually takes care of the e-commerce, like buying the guns or buying the coins in any game. So these are all different applications, right? So these can be in a different microstructure, microservices architecture also. Example is, see, we one time log in into our Facebook. Whenever we buy a new mobile or install a new application, we log in. And next time if you go, we are not logging in. It is happening in the back end. We just go use the application, kill the app, and come back. What happens? Login happens in a different phase. And your news feeds, share, like, or your live telecast happens in a different phase. So what is happening here is everything can be a different microstructure. So if login is not working, don't worry, your newsfeed will work. You're sharing the application, sharing the post, or like YouTube share, YouTube, everything. So imagine these are all the different microservices. Every small piece of architecture or piece of code is owning that. Say if I work on login system, my login is not working. There are chances that my order or subscription page can be working. So this can be seamless. So by the time the backend team in any organization, they'll fix the login so that those who are already logged in will not be logged out, or they won't be facing any errors. So in that case, a role of a full stack developer is, in a given project or in any given module, you are responsible for your own screen. Say, let's take login screen, Facebook. So you're working with Facebook. You're into department which takes care of login. So you will be working on what are all required for your Facebook UI. And when the UI calls any web API, which is the backend API. So when you click on the login button, your phone number, password combination, or your your phone number and your password combination will go to an API. So you will be responsible of this API also. So you will be calling an web API, and sometimes you will be writing this own API also. And this communication happens in the DB layer also. And you will be packaging that entire thing to CI/CD. And you should have some knowledge about what is cloud and how a cloud architecture works, which is like you are going to be a superhero. You can work in any part of the code. You can work on any modules of a digital product, saying that even in case of bug fixes, you're creating a new features, or even if you want to have your own startup, having your own product, you will be having a multiple, like you'll get your hands dirty on multiple features or multiple packages. And like you are going to be an all-rounder, not like a bowler or a batsman or a wicket keeper. You are going to be an all-rounder. And this is what the current trends also saying, like any developer who's working, who should have a different, like a cross-platform knowledge. Later, when you're growing into your career, like you will be starting as a trainee analyst, and then go to a next level called a mid-level developer or a senior developer, then lead developer, then principal engineer. As you grow the ladder up, you will have much more insights. And then like even after 20-25 years, you as a student starting as a developer can end up becoming a CTO or CDO of any application. So you'll have a wider knowledge. So what I would say in terms of full stack development is that as a student, don't concentrate on any one module from this diagram. Okay, so it's good to have like mastery in any one packages. It's always good. Be a master in any one of the block. That is always going to help you. But don't be restricted into that one block. That might not be help us for in the long run. So situations are changing. So now the current trend is like, I should also mention you, there are many stacks. So people call me as a mean stack developer, which means that I work on mean stack. Mean, what it means? M for Mongo, E for Express, A for Angular, N for Node. So I'm a mean stack developer who also work in Java. So I can work with Node and Java. So like on the outset, people call us as a mean stack developer, but there are something called MERN, MERN stack developer, which means that that guy is, one second. So that MERN stack developer is, he can work on MongoDB, Express.js, React.js, and Node.js. So he's a MERN stack developer. There are some other guys who are called Maven stack, which is Mongo, Express, Vue.js, and then Node.js. There are some full stack engineers who are called Java stack developers. So those guys will be fully concentrating on Java-based UI or mostly of Java API and Java related technologies. So they are called as Java-based full stack developers. So take it as maybe an assignment. Go check in LinkedIn, Naukri, or any site. Don't ever search on full stack also. Just search for database developer or a like backend developer or a front-end developer. You will be ending up seeing the job description as you should be having a different knowledges in different platforms. So this is what I was planning up to cover about giving an overview about what is the different stacks available, what is a role of full stack developer, and what a web application like full stack web application has. The skeleton of it. This is just a 10% or a basic idea of it. Maybe if we get a chance to interact in future, we can go through some live examples, persisting from the UI to API or DB, or even I can show you about like Android. So we can take it up next step. So this is what I have planned, and the time is 3:59. And professors, I'm done.
Okay, thank you, sir. Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you.
Sir, the question is, what is the difference between REST RDSC and GraphQL?
Okay, ma'am. So there are majorly two different, which is like SOAP-based and REST-based. REST API they call relational transfer, and SOAP-based. GraphQL is like a GraphQL, like Graph API is developed by Facebook. So they have, okay, fine. So GraphQL is a set of middleware where you have your different queries to your API. Okay, so in the client server architecture, which I told you, you start from your front end, you call an REST API, and then you get the data from the API and back to the front end. So this GraphQL have certain set of protocols or queries where you pass your data to this GraphQL queries, and that will have the the filtration criteria. Okay, search for this user under this conditions, some logic. So this GraphQL query will fetch the data and give it to you. It is like set of rules or protocols we have in the middle layer.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
The
Yeah.
second question is, what is the major role of API in this?
Okay. So without API, as I told you initially, if you're not having any API or business logics, we are having it directly in the front end. What will happen is, so anybody can view your database credentials or your business logics. So say example, I'm having an application. Whoever logs into my application, I'll give them $5. Or say in Indian rupees, whoever logs into my application, I'll give them 5 rupees to their bank account. Imagine there is no API. I'm having this logic in the front end. What will happen is, anybody, not necessarily a hacker, anyone who knows technology can tamper into the front end and transfer that $5 logic or 5 rupees logic. They can make changes and make it as $50 or $500, or they can, like, without any data abstraction, they can modify the front end business logics, and that will come to the database. Or there is another way, from the API directly or calling a database. It is possible. And within the database, if you're having some stored procedures, having list of rules, what can happen is, in the latest stage, you are changing the database itself. You are moving from SQL to MySQL, or if database is down, or if database is out of memory within the database processors, or to have your business logics log in. So there should be some middle layer, which is the web service or the API layer, which has all the business logics. So you just consume it to talk to the API, which is like, I want to store something in the database, but in a secured manner with all the business logics, field validations, and all the criteria. I will directly call my API. I'll fulfill all my requests, and then I'll get the response. So this communication, data, read, write, update, delete, all these will be taken care by the REST API also. So that is the importance of the API. But yes, it is possible without API also, but with the standards, nobody does that in any application. It is always vulnerable. So we have to have some middle layer which validates data or do any processing.
So one more question. What is the learning path you would suggest to become a full stack developer? Where should they start?
Okay, ma'am. Great, good question. So if we are deciding, so full stack, I would say the next level of it. So as a student, if we are trying to learn something, so this also comes under language only, ma'am. So if I want to learn, and to all the students, so if I want to learn Hindi, or if I want to learn Punjabi, what I know is Tamil and English. So in order to learn that language, I'll have to use any one middleware language. So learning Hindi through Tamil, or learning Hindi through Telugu, so that you will have to learn any one language. It can be C, C++ also. Start from any one language which you like. At last, it's a matter of liking. So whichever language you're comfortable, whichever language you like, you can start with that language, have the basic idea, then start with, so if you're starting with UI language, the next step should be the backend. If you're starting with the backend language, then your next idea should be the UI. If you cross these two sections, obviously you will have some idea about whatever I told. So it can be any language, but the starting path can be, now Udemy has many free courses also. Udemy, the learning app, or LinkedIn Learning is free for 1 month, and basic Googling is enough. Like for all the programming, especially when it comes to developers, basic Googling will give you multiple tutorials, free tutorials. So not to worry about where to start, but have a personal plan. That will be my advice. Have a personal plan. Pick up one language. You can start from that. And as a student, I can tell you confidently, it will take hardly 2 to 3 days for you guys to set up any programming language and running your Hello World. So that will do. But one tips from me is, be it any programming language, start with the calculator app. So me and some of my friends, this is what we followed. Start with the calculator app, because this calculator app will have a UI. This will have plus, minus, divide, or multiplication, which logics which we all already know, and this will be easy to implement. So take any programming language, start with a calculator app. You will gain your initial confidence on programming.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
On behalf of Department of Information Technology and Engineering College, I would like to thank our speaker, Mr. Selvam, who has given a wonderful session and on stack development. Thank you very much. And also I'd like to thank participants for being successful. And also I would like to thank our management, principal, and my colleagues. This session. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, students. All the best for your future. Thank you.